What could a Linus Ullmark trade actually look like based on recent goalie trades around the NHL?
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked B. Today is Tuesday, June 11th, and I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine. Free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Visit fanduel.com/lockedon to get started. Before we get started, a quick reminder, you can find the podcast on social media at Locked NHL Bruins. You can find me, my hockey thoughts and dad jokes at Ian C. McLaren. For those of you who may be new to the podcast, I am a lifelong Boston Bruins fan. Been covering this team for various outlets for about 20 years now, actually. Worked full-time on the hockey desk at The Score for 5 years and have been hosting this podcast since 2019. And today we're talking about a potential Linus Ullmark trade and what it actually may look like based on recent trades around the NHL involving goaltenders. And Bruins fans seem to have some pie in the sky wants in a deal for Linus Ullmark, a high-end top center, a scoring winger, some picks, prospects. But what can we actually expect Don Sweeney to command in a trade for Linus Ullmark? Well, let's look at some recent trades involving goaltenders and shout out to Tommy Kalaudy of Black and Gold Hockey. Looking at this article that they have up there on their site, listing some of these trades. And it begins all the way back with Cam Talbot, who was traded by the Edmonton Oilers to the New York Rangers. He had a record of 21-9-4 the season prior to the trade, a .919 save percentage. The Rangers got a second-round pick, a third-round pick, and a seventh-round pick. All right, and then Frederik Andersen was traded by the Anaheim Ducks to the Toronto Maple Leafs. He had a record of 22-9-7 the year before he was traded, and .919 save percentage as well. And the Ducks got a first-round pick and a second-round pick in that deal. A 2016 first-round pick and a 2017 conditional second-round pick. Those two players ended up being Sam Steele and Max Comtois. The Colorado Avalanche and the Washington Capitals pulled off a deal. This one was Philip Grubauer and Brooks Orpik, traded by the Capitals to Colorado for a second-round pick in the 2018 NHL entry draft. Grubauer had gone 15-10-3 with a .923 save percentage, getting a sweetener to take Orpik as well off their hands. So that one kind of had a bit more that was involved. We look at the Vegas Golden Knights, Chicago Blackhawks, and Toronto Maple Leafs pulling off a 3-team deal. Basically, in the end, it was Robin Lehner going to the Vegas Golden Knights for a 2020 second-round pick, Malcolm Subban, who was, of course, a first-round pick by the Boston Bruins, and then Stanislav Demine as well. Darcy Kemper was traded by the Arizona Coyotes to the Colorado Avalanche for a 2020 2022 first round pick, I should say, a 2024 third round pick, and goaltender Connor Timmins. He was coming off a 10-11-3 record with a 907 save percentage. Kemper, of course, went on to help the Avalanche win a Stanley Cup. Later on, the Avalanche acquired Alexander Georgiev from the New York Rangers for a third round pick, a fifth round pick, and a third round pick. The first third round pick was in 22. The other was in 2023. So trio of picks there, kind of third, fifth, not high end. He had gone 15, 10, and 2 with an 898 save percentage the year prior. More recently, we had Marc-Andre Fleury traded to the Chicago Blackhawks in exchange traded from the Blackhawks to the Wild for a conditional 2022 second round pick. So you get a sense there of what the goalie market may be able to say about a future trade involving Linus Ullmark. I should add as well, there was another Marc-Andre Fleury trade from Vegas to Chicago. That was pretty much a cap dump. It doesn't really count for the purpose of this conversation. So you look at all these trades. They all involved draft picks. All right. There was only one other player involved in some of these deals. Some prospects, Malcolm Subban, Stanislav Demine, but really nobody of consequence. Connor Timmins, I suppose, was in there in the Darcy Kemper trade, but we're looking at draft picks and maybe some prospects and or fringe roster players. Connor Timmins could be something. He hasn't really panned out at this point. Maybe Malcolm Subban could have been something. Did not turn out to be anything. A lot of these deals involving first, second, third, like picks all the way down the line. So when we're talking about a potential Linus Ullmark trade, what are we looking at? Well, we're looking at draft picks, folks, and we'll discuss that more here as the podcast continues. Life can be pretty unpredictable, but a good life insurance policy gives your family a financial safety net to protect against some of those unknowns. Policy Genius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace, and it makes choosing the right policy for your family easy and quick. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options are 100% online and let you avoid unnecessary medical exams. Policy Genius helps you easily compare your options from America's top insurers in just a few clicks. Their award-winning agents can even walk you through the process step by step. There's no incentive to recommend one insurer over another, so you can trust their guidance. Get peace of mind by finding the right life insurance policy with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com. Thank you so much once again for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine, free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. While you're over on YouTube, check out Locked On Sports Today. All the latest news, opinions, and analysis from across the Locked On universe. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Again, Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and the Amazon Fire TV channels app. So again, looking back at those goalie trades in recent years, the thing that stands out is picks. And there were a couple instances where the acquiring team did cough up a first round pick for a goalie. You had Frederik Andersen going from Anaheim to Toronto for a first and a second round pick. And then you had Darcy Kemper going from Arizona to Colorado for a first, a third, and Connor Timmins. We've already discussed here on Locked On Bruins how the New Jersey Devils and possibly the Buffalo Sabres are willing to move their first-round picks. The Devils certainly looking to acquire a goaltender, and their 10th overall pick could be in the conversation. Now, the thing with Linus Ullmark is that he's currently 30 years old. He's going to be turning 31 on July 31st. He has 1 year remaining on his contract that pays him $5 million per season. Now, the acquiring team only has one sure season that they'll be getting out of him, with the possibility, of course, of signing a contract extension. He is still a very high-end goaltender. He didn't reach the .938 save percentage that he did winning the Vezina Trophy in 2023, but .915 save percentage in 23-24, and that is pretty much in line with what you can expect from him. When he signed with the Bruins, I talked about how in the 2 seasons prior with the Buffalo Sabres, a team that was not very good, he had a .916 save percentage. In Boston, he had a .917 in his first year, .915 in his second year. There you go, .916 save percentage. That's pretty much what you can expect, and that's well above the league average, which last season I think hovered around 900. The .938, probably an outlier, but it shows what he's capable of playing in front of or behind a very good team. So a first rounder I don't think is out of the question for Linus Ullmark. In fact, it would be great to get a package of picks, maybe first this year, second next year, which could be good value for a team, especially if they're able to re-sign him. A lot of these goalie trades have been very pick heavy. Yes, some of them included firsts. It might be a bit of a stretch to expect Ullmark to be moved in exchange for established roster players. There's rumors out there about Boston maybe moving him to Ottawa for Jacob Chychrun, to Carolina for Martin Necas, but recent history tells us that that would be the exception to the goaltender trade rule and not what should be expected. Most of these trades, all of these trades pretty much involved draft picks. Now, the thing with not acquiring a roster player is that it would free up cap space in order for Don Sweeney to sign a player in free agency. So that's kind of the trade-off as well. You're not only recouping some draft picks that are much needed in order to restock the pipeline, but you're also freeing up that $5 million in cap space that can be used to sign a center or a scoring winger. Right now, again, the Bruins have no first-round pick this year, no second-round pick, no third-round pick, or no 7th-round pick, I should say, and no 7th-round pick. Next year, no 2nd and no 4th. In 2026, they've already traded away their 6th-round pick that year as well in the Patrick Maroon trade. So you can see that they have some holes at the draft table that could be filled by this trade, and you're also getting the added bonus of shedding that cap space and going out and signing someone else. So what can we realistically expect in a Linus Ullmark trade? I mean, a first-round pick would be ideal, and if you look at the 2024 draft table, there's a bunch of teams with multiple first-round picks, and teams like the New Jersey Devils who are willing to trade a top 10 pick. They have a clear need in net. They had Jake Allen as their goalie down the stretch. He played pretty well. Kaapo Kähkönen is an unrestricted free agent. They traded Vitek Vanacek. Mackenzie Blackwood no longer there. They have Nico Dawes, who's a promising prospect. Perhaps the Bruins could talk New Jersey into adding him into the mix. But we talked about last week how they're pretty set in net right now, even after allowing Reed Dick to walk as an unrestricted or go back in the draft. I mean, after not signing his entry-level deal. So the Devils are a clear contender to pick him up. They have around $19 million in available cap space, with most of their core players locked up for quite some time. So getting Ullmark for next season and then potentially signing him long-term would give them a guy that they need. They also have 2 second-round picks in 2025. One of those was picked up, or is it, I guess, a conditional pick in the Jake Allen trade. It's a 3rd-round pick. If he plays 40 or more games, it becomes a 2nd-round pick. So they might want to trade for a goalie to avoid that as well, to give him less than 40 games. They could trade a pick that they acquired from the Winnipeg Jets in a trade involving Tyler Toffoli. Include that in the trade. So their 1st-round pick, Winnipeg's 2nd-round pick in 2025. That might be the best deal the Bruins could get here for Linus Ullmark. Don't expect a roster player to come back. Don't expect this huge package involving picks, prospects. Linus Ullmark is going to be 31 years old by the time next season begins. Yes, he's still a very high-end goalie, but he's in the last year of his deal. And, of course, he has some say in where he goes with that limited no movement clause. So, based on recent goaltending trade history and where the market's at right now, that's pretty much what we can expect from Don Sweeney here. A guy who was or is highly regarded by his peers based on the GM of the Year voting, and we'll discuss that here as the podcast continues. The NHL and NBA finals are in full swing, and baseball is in the thick of their season as we get deeper into summer. You can bet on it all on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. All you need to do is go to their website or grab the app, check out some of the lines that they have over there, put down $5, and if you win, you get $200 in bonus bets. Game 3 of the NBA Finals, for example, the over-under is set at 212.5. Put $5 down there. If you hit, you get $200 in bonus bets you can put on anything from Finals MVP to who's going to hit one out of Fenway in the next Red Sox game. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and add a big win to your summer bucket list. Visit FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. The GM of the Year award was handed out yesterday in the NHL, and it went to Jim Nill of the Dallas Stars for the 2nd straight season. But our own Don Sweeney finished 5th in voting for the Jim Gregory General Manager of the Year award for this past season. He got 3 first-place votes, 1 second-place vote, and 3 third-place votes. For a total of 21 points. Only Nill, Chris Drury of the New York Rangers, Bill Zito of the Florida Panthers, Patrick Alvin of the Vancouver Canucks, and Jim Nill finished with more points than Sweeney. A pretty good showing for our boy Don, who does deserve a lot of credit for how he was able to navigate this transition season for the Boston Bruins. Voting for this award, by the way, is conducted by the 32 general managers around the NHL, as well as a panel of some other NHL execs, select broadcasters, and media members. So a lot of it is some recognition from Sweeney's peers as to how he was able to put together a team that advanced to the second round of the NHL playoffs when some were writing them off as a non-playoff team. He was able to get a lot out of some budget signings this season, navigating some salary cap overages, navigating an exodus of players, having to sacrifice Taylor Hall, Nick Foligno to the salary cap gods. The Bruins had the 7th most points in hockey after the retirements of Patrice Bergeron and David Krejci, who have been pillars of this franchise for the last 10, 15 years. He got contributions from Danton Heinen, who came in on a PTO, James Van Riemsdyk, Kevin Shattenkirk, got some contributions from Johnny Beecher, who he picked in the 2019 first round, Mason Lohrei, who he selected in the second round of the 2020 draft, second rounder from 2022, Matt Poitras, Trent Frederick, of course, has become a pretty important player for this team, and they beat the Toronto Maple Leafs in a 7-game series, despite the fact that Toronto's well within their Stanley Cup window, and the Bruins, that was not expected for them. We've been talking for days now about how Don Sweeney has some cap space to work with here this summer. Could be even more with a Linus Ullmark trade. Now, we don't want a repeat of, the David Backes contract or the offseason where he went out and signed Foligno, Noshik, Eric Howla, Derek Forbort. He did get Linus Ullmark that offseason, but that was pretty much the one hit from that group. So Don Sweeney getting some love from his peers. He finished his 5th in voting for the GM of the Year award, which is, kind of hilarious considering how much Boston hockey fans seem to turn on him, or at least don't appreciate what he's able to bring to the table. Now, that's not to say there haven't been some huge misses. Again, 2015, we can talk about that. I don't know if that's all on him, considering he had just taken over the job. A lot of that was on his scouting staff. But there have been some misses, but there have been some hits as well. Charlie Coyle, Hampus Lindholm, even the Taylor Hall trade. Trading is certainly his strength, I think. Signings haven't been his strength. Drafting's been a bit of a mixed bag. I think if you look at his overall body of work, there are some pieces there. But there's a big opportunity to add this offseason, and hopefully there are more hits than misses here as he swings in free agency, the team trying to get younger and faster. So let's not sign players who have been captains on other teams or adding grit in free agency. Let's just go for the best available players and hope for the best there. That's it for today's episode, my friends. Looking for a draft pick or 2 or 3 in return for Linus Ullmark. A first would be ideal, and that should set the table for what Sweeney is able to do in free agency. So maybe that could happen prior to the draft, which is coming up in 17 days. Between now and then, we'll continue to preview the Bruins offseason, bring you all the latest on the black and gold here on Locked On Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day. Take care of yourselves, friends. Take care of each other. We'll talk to you again here tomorrow.